Okay. My name is Tim. I'm an alcoholic. I was asked to share tonight by my sponsor. I was asked to lead the meeting and do 10 minutes, and I need this program. Yeah. He said he flipped a coin and I won. So I got to come up here. Yeah, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Well, the first time that I took a drink, I was 8 years old. And I'll never forget it because we used to live on this island called Guam. It's out past Hawaii. And it was during the Vietnam War. My dad was in the service. And we used to have all kinds of parties, you know. We used to have fiestas and barbecues. And people would drink. I mean, it was full-on parties. I mean, they'd roast pigs and everything. And there was always other herbal stuff around the house, you know. And, so I got to witness at a young age, the partying atmosphere. And it looked good to me, you know. Everybody looked like they were having a good time. And, of course, I loved my mom and dad, and anything that they did was okay with me, you know. Like I said, I was raised around it, and, I know it's not Christmas time, but I remember when I was like about 6 years old, Santa Claus came over, right? It was this guy that my mom got from work. My mom worked at a bar, okay? And this guy comes over, and he didn't want any money. All he wanted was booze, you know? And I remember he always had his eggnog, and he reeked, you know? But he was real happy, and he was having a good time. And I noticed that, he kept getting drunker and drunker, And I thought, you know what? I thought, I didn't know Santa Claus got drunk, And, but anyhow, this guy leaves, and obviously he didn't leave in his reindeer, He got in a car, and then he crashed his car that night, And, my mom told us about it and everything, and that's when I knew that there was no Santa Claus. Just put it this way, 6 years old, And anyhow, today, let me start by saying this. I'm a little bit nervous, okay? In this past week, I've gone to court 3 days. I'm going through a custody thing with my kids. And, but I'm suiting up and I'm showing up, And this is what's kept me sober. So, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And, but anyhow, so we got back to the States, okay? And when we got back here, my dad stayed on Guam. And my mom had a party with a bunch of people over. And there was all kinds of beers in the refrigerator. And I remember I went in the refrigerator and I grabbed a beer, and I went in my room. And my brothers were in there, and I drank a beer. And I remember after I had that beer, I remember that I had like a little buzz, I could remember feeling something off that beer, And the next day we were going to Disneyland, And I had heard, because I'd been around partying all my life, I knew that if you drank too much, you were going to have a hangover. The next day you weren't going to be able to do nothing. And I wanted to go to Disneyland, right? But I remember after I had that beer, this is weird, and I didn't put all this together until I read the doctor's opinion. After I had that beer at 8 years old, I had to go have another beer, And then after I had that beer, I went and had a third beer, okay? And I'm 8 years old, And I remember I was drunk, and I kept falling around the room, And my brothers were laughing at me and stuff, And, I thought it was really cool. And I remember I had fear of the next day, I was going to be hung over and I wasn't going to be able to go to Disneyland, But that didn't happen. I didn't have a hangover, so I thought, cool, This didn't do like everybody said. So I went about another 2 years of, just being a kid, being kind of a weird kid. Always felt out of place, Had a bunch of people who were acquaintances, but I never had a friend as a kid. I never had a person that I could say that this guy's my friend. And I noticed that, when I got to be about 11 years old, I had a few beers again, and I had it with some guys down the street. And they were older than me. And I noticed that they thought I was cool, and I thought that, this is how I could fit in with people, I could drink a few beers with them and, act cool and talk about things, and I would belong. And so what happened was I kept drinking, okay? And I didn't drink a lot. I was young, and it just only took a few beers to get me buzzed, and I was always scared that I was going to get caught. But I remember what I would do is somebody introduced me to this herb stuff. And I remember I would set my alarm, okay? Now, I was 12 now. I would set my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would get up, get on my bike, sneak out of the house, and I would ride my bike to places where I knew people had things growing in their backyard. And I would jump fences, and I would pull these things out of the ground, okay? Now, I know this is Alcoholics Anonymous, but this is my story, okay? This is where my head was at 12 years old. This is what I thought the right thing was to do, And so that set me off, and what I would do, for the next couple of years after that was, since I didn't have any money, and I wasn't going to ask my mom for money so I could go buy weed, and booze, I would go trolling and look over fences in the fields, and I would see plants. And I would pull these things, and it just got worse, I would get shot at, I remember my dad found them under my bed, and I remember him telling me back then, because my mom, it was the worst alcoholic I ever seen, and I was bad, I'll get to that in just a minute. I got a few minutes, but this lady she totally had the phenomenon of craving. Once she started, she would go through 2 or 3 bottles of big jugs of wine, and she just wouldn't stop. And I never seen anybody hold booze down the way she did. But my dad told me when he caught me with this stuff under the bed, he says, you know what, if you're not careful, you're going to end up like your mom, And I didn't want to end up like my mom. I loved my mom very much, but I would hear her every night when I'd be up, laying in bed trying to sleep. She would be downstairs, and she would get so drunk that she would black out, but she would start yelling and screaming, and there would be nobody there. She'd be talking to people that weren't there, and it used to scare the hell out of me, and I thought, I never want to be like that. I'm not going to be a drunk like her. But what happened was I didn't know that I had a disease, right, that once I started drinking that I had to have another drink. I didn't understand that when I kept picking up a drink, and I didn't find that out till I got here in AA, and that explains that in the doctor's opinion. And so what happened to me is basically what happened to my mom, except she got sober when she was 40, and I got sober when I was 31, The progressiveness of this disease I understand because I came to AA about 3 years ago, and actually about 5 years ago. And I came in and I'd get a couple days and I'd get a week and I'd go back out, And, I just couldn't understand what everybody was saying, I knew I didn't want to drink anymore, but I thought if my life is messed up, if I can just get my life okay, that, I could manage my drinking and everything would be fine. And then I managed to get 6 months at one point, and I remember what happened when I went back out, During that 6 months, basically, this is my story. Okay, what happened in that 6 months, I sat in a seat, and that's all I did. I came to meetings, I listened to people, I didn't share much, I just basically just listened, Didn't get involved in the program, and what happened to me is, and the book talks about it, it talks about maintaining our sobriety. What we have is a daily maintenance, contingent on our spiritual maintenance, on action, on the things that we're doing, and I knew that's what happened to me because the obsession came and I had a drink. I had no defense, so I went and drank. I forgot what it was that brought me into this program, okay? And I didn't think that I was as bad as my mom or that I was as bad as other people that I had heard in this program. So I went back out and I drank for another year and a half. And that's what it took, you know. I mean, I lost my house. I lost my wife and kids. I lost a lot of jobs, you know. I hear people that, you know, got 5, 10 years on a job, you know, and there's no possible way in the world, if I got nailed down to one job where, let's say it was Northrop or somebody, okay, where it was a good job like that, I would have lost it, you know. But I'm in a union, so I'll lose a job and then I'll go find another one, you know. So I've been able to stay working, basically stay working. I've worked for 15 years in the union that I'm in, but actual work time has only been like 12, you know. There was a time where I was drunk for a whole year. You know, I was just collecting unemployment. I got into my annuity fund, and all I did was drink, you know. And that was the point where my wife left me. And so when I got here this time, you know, I heard the doctor's opinion this time. Okay, I listened to it. And I saw myself in the doctor's opinion. And I knew I had an allergy. And I knew I had an obsession of the mind that was so powerful that no matter how much I wanted to stop, that my head is going to lie to me and tell me to take a drink. And that's only because I experienced being sober and going back out. You know, and you know, I didn't have, I mean, you don't have to do that if you're new, you know, and you haven't done that. You don't have to do that, you know. But I did. That's what it took for me. And like I said, today things are good, you know, because like I said, when I got here this time, I got into the book. I'm working a program, you know. I'm on my 9th step. You know, the 4th step was kind of hard, but it was very necessary for me to do the 4th step, because there's all the stuff in my past and all the problems that I thought I had with the rest of the world, and the guilt I felt about myself. By doing the 3rd step, that gave me the courage I needed to go on and do the 4th step, you know, and I did it, you know, and it took a while, but I did it, you know, and I went ahead and I did the 5th step, you know, and when I did that, it was just like, you know, I didn't have this major spiritual experience or anything like people talk about. That didn't happen. What I had was, for once in my life, I realized how screwed up I was, man, you know, and I knew that it was me that was the problems to everything else. You know, even the people that were justified in the resentments that I had, even the people that did me totally wrong, you know, I carried those resentments with me when I was drinking. Those resentments moved over into other resentments. You know, I don't know how to explain that, but I was pissed off at one person about something for years. Okay? Whenever anybody else would piss me off and the same thing that happened in that resentment, I would take the same anger that I had in that person and I would just blow it out of proportion. And I did that for years, man. And, you know, and I was pissing people off and talking shit to people where it wasn't necessary, but I didn't know, you know. And this program has showed me, I'm learning about me. And this 9 steps really helped a lot, because there's a lot of things that I felt guilt about from when I was younger and up until the time where I made it in this room that I was able to talk to people about, you know, to look them in the eye and do it the right way, you know, because, you know, when I first sobered up, I just wanted to jump in and start telling everybody I was sorry, you know, without realizing, you know, how sick I was and where my part was. But anyhow, I'm really grateful to be sober. And this week, I tell you what, if I didn't work the steps to the point where I'm at today, okay, this week, and the people, my friends, my sponsor, the fellows in this program that I've talked to about what I'm going through, if I didn't have you guys and I didn't have this program, I probably would have got drunk. Because any time I felt any pain before, that's the first thing I did was drink. You know, and AA has taught me just to suit up and show up no matter how I feel. Just do it. You know, and it was like I was saying earlier in another meeting, I'm really busy. You know, I had my kids today, I dropped them off. I'm a secretary of a meeting at 6 just before this one. I come here, I set up the recording, so it's like, that's why I'm like this. I need to key down, you know. There was like no warning, it was a coin toss. But, I even forgot what I was saying. I don't know, all I know is this program has kept me sober by doing what I'm supposed to do. you know, and talking to you guys about it and realizing that every time I make it through a hard time, my faith builds, you know. And then when I get in another jackpot, I knew that I didn't have to drink this last time. You know, it's like God put this problem in my life when I was ready for it, you know. It didn't happen when I wasn't ready for it. And it's because because I talk to people, you know. It's because I pick up the phone, you know, and I tell people what's going on, you know. And this program works, you know. I don't have to pick up a drink today, man. You know, I don't have to go back to the way I was living. I understand my disease today. I know that if I do go out, that's my choice, because I've gone far enough into the steps and in this program that I have no more excuses, you know. There's a program of action that I can take when I'm in a situation that will keep me sober, just so long as I do it, you know. And but anyhow, thanks for letting me share, you know. Hey, we're going to take a smoke break, and we're going to do the seventh tradition right now.